What if your top salesperson was 1,000 times more efficient? And what if a limitless digital workforce helped your number one find leads? A super team working 24/7 on their behalf, thinking, acting, and solving complex tasks so more deals closed. That would be one very efficient sales leader. Now, imagine if every person on your team worked to the power of 1,000. They can with Agentforce, the powerful AI from Salesforce. Learn more at salesforce.com.
Welcome to the Product Rising podcast. Today, our guest is Sandhya Ganesh, a growth product manager at Tinder who specializes in everything from user activation and retention to subscription, merchandising, and engagement growth platforms. Before Tinder, she honed her skills at Amazon and Lending Club, where she launched products from 0 to 1 and developed cutting-edge marketing tech solutions. In addition to being a product leader and growth expert, Sandhya is a passionate mentor, eager to share her journey and insights on building a thriving career in product management. We're so excited to have you, Sandhya. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Well, we want to start with basic definitions of what growth product management is. As you are aware, I'm sure, it isn't always clear to people in product what the definition of growth product is versus core product. So let's hear it in your words.
Yeah, for sure. The basic difference I would say between core and growth product is core product is essentially solving a user problem or helping a user get a job done effectively. And once you have established that, okay, for a core consumer group, we are able to deliver value and then there is product market fit, that's when I think growth comes into play. So if you have a great product, but no one knows about it or no one uses it on a constant basis, then you're not really growing as a business. You're not really unlocking the full potential of this product. So what growth really does is I feel it does three things really well. One is it lets people know that the product exists and they need to come try it out. Second, it makes sure that they have the best first experience. So they really understand what this product is trying to do for them and really start to sort of resonate with that experience. And then once they have done that, we need to constantly make sure that users are coming back. That's a measure of how sticky your product is. Is it continuously driving value for your core segment? And once that happens, it's also important for us to understand, okay, are people willing to pay for some of the premium features within the product, right? That's how your business is able to make money as well as invest in further building experiences that enhance, the jobs to be done for the user. So I think that's the crux of, I would say, the difference between core and growth. So core is focused on establishing the product market fit, and growth is making sure that people know about it, use it constantly, and also pay for it.
So would you be able to give us a little bit of an idea on how the teams work together and how the organization typically structures a growth team?
Yeah, absolutely. So growth organizations, I think they can vary. Sometimes they follow a GM model where like there is a growth leader and you have all functions like say product, design, marketing, all under this one leader. But in a lot of other companies, such as at Tinder, the functions like report up to their own leaders. So like product reports up to the product leader, design reports up to design leader, and so on and so forth. But together, as part of the growth team, you have these different stakeholders working together to build growth solutions. And I think in terms of how we collaborate with core, growth cannot work in a silo. Like if there is no product and there is no constant core product innovation, there is no like ammunition for growth to really pour fuel on, right? So we work very closely with core, which includes us understanding, okay, what are the new features they are building, also really understanding where are their like optimization opportunities where growth can really support those core products. How can we better educate our users? How can we have more personalization so the right user cohorts know about the right features at the right time? And also, how can we effectively, use CRM, in-app messaging, out-of-app messaging, in order to truly sort of, again, make sure that the users are unleashing the full potential of our product. So I think it's a very close collaboration, and any growth product that we do, it more or less always touches core. So we are in constant partnership, as we work through things.
It would be really helpful to our listeners to hear some definitions of the success measures that you use. There are a lot of growth acronyms that are specific to those teams, and we'd love to go through a few of them if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
all right, so let's start with PLG. We hear PLG all the time. What exactly is PLG?
Yeah, PLG is product led growth. You can almost think about it as the product selling itself. Like you don't need any marketing, you don't need, to explicitly go out there and let the users know. The product itself is so good that when a user like discovers it, they love it, and then there is strong word of mouth that sort of spreads and leads to like more organic growth, right? And I think product-led growth has become like an acronym like in the recent past, but it's always been the case, right? If you have successful product experiences, it kind of always like catches the wind and people know about it and they start using it. That's PLG.
We'd like to talk a little bit about CAC. What is CAC?
It's customer acquisition cost. It's essentially how much price are you paying in order to get a customer. The CAC can vary depending on the type of business. Like, for example, financial institutions, banking institutions could have a very high CAC because they do end up giving like a lot of sort of like points or bonuses for users to join. Whereas for more like other type of consumer apps or social apps, I think the CAC could be pretty smaller comparatively.
Now, you mentioned stickiness earlier. What are the metrics that measure stickiness? I think we have DAU and MAU. Can you explain what those are?
Yeah, so it's essentially daily active users, monthly active users, and sometimes we also look at weekly active users. It's essentially a measure of retention, like how often are people coming back to your app, or how many users are coming back daily or weekly or monthly into your app. And I think what is the specific metric we look at totally depends on the cadence that a product actually elicits, right? For example, if it's a music product, you would more or less imagine for that product to be used every single day. If it's probably a fitness product, could be daily, or you maybe use it 3 or 4 times a week. So it's more of like a weekly cadence. And then if it's a tax product, for example, it could be an annual cadence, right? So depending on how often you would expect your users to come into your product, you would define which of these retention metrics like sort of better fit for your product.
What about ARPU?
Yeah, ARPU is actually average revenue per user. So for if you have X amount of users, like on an average, how much are users paying you in order to continue using the product? Totally, the average would depend on the kind of business model you operate, whether it's a subscription product or it's an in-app purchase kind of a product, it's an a la carte product, it's a pay-per-use product. Like depending on the business model, your ARPU like range could be very different.
Okay. And I define LTV.
Yeah, LTV is one of my favorite metrics. It's lifetime value. So, what's the value that the customer brings in to your business and your product over the course of their relationship with your product? So, say if there is a user that comes in and actually uses the product for 5 years and they pay every single year for your product, they have a very high LTV. And it's not just about how much they are paying over time, it's also about what is the value they're bringing into your product. So, for example, if it's a social product or it's a network based product, right, where every user that comes in actually makes the experience of other users better, there is this hidden, like indirect way in which they are actually helping your experience get better. And as a result, driving more stickiness within your product.
Okay, so that sounds like it would be a good segue into defining what a growth loop is, and how that plays into the strategy for a growth team.
Absolutely. So, whatever I mentioned actually are all components of a growth loop, and you almost think of it as not a linear, but a circle. So, imagine you have an amazing product you've built, and it's product led growth. So, people hear about it, use it, love it. And then if you are wanting to spend extra marketing dollars or referral bonuses, then you are actually incurring some cost of acquisition. And then once they are into the door, right, like you continually make sure that they have the best experience within the app and they keep coming back, which is measured by how sticky your product is. And then there will be a subset of users who would be wanting to like pay for your product, which is ARPU. And if they do that on a continuous basis over time, they form a strong LTV. But very high LTV users who are very sticky are also great promoters for your app, right? So they actually spread word of mouth. They kind of endorse your product like just because they love it. And that again leads to more acquisition or product led growth. That again leads to more users coming into your product and again creating sticky experiences. So I think it's very important for each of those steps or components to be very optimized and for us to always strive for us to create like a strong sticky experience with high LTV users.
Okay. The ones that we did just talk about, I'm sure there are others as well, but if you're a team looking for maybe your first set of measures for success for your growth efforts, what would you say are maybe the most important ones?
Long story short, I would first focus on stickiness metric, which is DAO or MA. And then I would probably focus on, cost of acquisition as well as PLG. If I want to further scale the amount of users that are using my product. And once we have really hit a good sort of scale, I would then focus on monetization, which is around ARPU and total revenue that we're able to get in.
Okay, and I think you mentioned working with marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we collaborate again very closely with our marketing team, and typically, I have had like three sort of different teams within marketing that I work with. So one is focused on like pure brand awareness as well as like really letting users know that this product exists and there are new features that we have launched. Please come use it, right? So that's where we are really spending our advertising dollars on. The second type is product marketing, right? So this we use heavily using our in-app CRM as well as like out-of-app CRM, like push notifications or email, where it's all about the messaging. It's all about how you're positioning your product, how you're delivering the value proposition that your product is offering. And this mainly could attract like, existing users, people who are like dormant or, who have used your product before but have like actually lapsed. And it works like very, very well. So it's a very solid like in-house lever that we can leverage with like very minimal to no cost. And then the third area, like actually comms or communications team. So whenever we have like say big launches, our comms team typically works on with like the media in order to really let the industry know about some of the major key features that we have launched, and that again really helps us get more awareness, more eyeballs. That again starts that growth loop that I've been talking about.
Yeah, so what's really interesting is to hear that there's quite a lot of your job that seems to cross over with marketing and communications teams. Do you actually have influence over the messaging itself?
Yeah, actually. So the way we at least work, at Tinder is it's a very collaborative effort where like the PM and marketing team like actually sits together and we really try to, be very clear on, okay, what is this product trying to really do? What is the key problem it's solving? Is it really focusing on a specific demographic within our user cohort? And obviously, it needs to also align with, some of our strategic bets as well as our marketing and branding sort of efforts that are going on. So how does it all fit into like a perfect story and truly like makes it super clear for the user on why they should come try this experience. And then once marketing team actually like puts together the draft, we always like product people always have a say, give inputs on what variations we could make and what are maybe some of the things that is core to the product that we should definitely mention.
How did you get into this without really expecting that it would go this way?
Yeah, absolutely. I did not plan to be part of growth in any way, like when I started off. And I have worked across like different like product areas across different companies. And I couldn't really see how this all connected to forming foundations for growth. But I think now when I look back, I'm grateful for all those experiences because I did feel that I picked up skills that set me up for a successful growth career. So yeah, I actually started as an engineer. I built web applications back in the day for Deloitte Consulting in India, and this was right after my engineering, undergrad. And while I was at Deloitte Consulting building these applications, I was fortunate enough to get exposure to clients here in the US. And I naturally found myself gravitating towards really understanding why are we even building this, who are we solving it for, what is the current problem that this web application is going to solve for. And I was always wanting to have better solutions if I thought I could think of something better, right? And I really enjoyed that aspect of my role. And I was fortunate enough to have like managers who were super supportive of giving me that exposure, talking directly to clients. So I did this for 2 years. I was still majorly a developer, but I did get this exposure. And I realized that while I love coding and I love technology, like I'm not someone who could do that every day, all day. I gravitate towards defining what's to be built. And at that time, I didn't know what are the different career paths to be able to do so. But then I was able to choose my electives, and I ended up choosing electives that were very in line with product management. So we actually had a course around product management, comparative strategies, how can you drive innovations, and how do you create IPs for it, and things like that. And over this, this entire schooling that I was doing at Duke, I also got like experiences like to actually do projects with real companies. And I cold emailed and cold messaged people on LinkedIn who are in product space. And all of this really helped me understand that, okay, this is an area that I'm really interested in and probably really ties well with some of the things I enjoyed back at Deloitte, right? That I just mentioned about. So once that happened, funnily enough, I actually got a job offer at Deloitte Consulting in US, but now it was a product role as part of like technology consulting within Deloitte. And the sole sort of goal of this particular team that I was part of was to create products that you could sell to like clients within a specific industry vertical. So it was almost like a B2B product environment. So the two main experiences that I got during my time there, which was very helpful to me, is one, building that 0 to 1 product experience. The ability to directly talk to clients and validate if what we were building actually made sense. And the second piece was also I got the opportunity to actually productize an existing technology. We had a risk model that we had built out that was very applicable to insurance industry clients. So I was able to take that technology and find a use case that was very solid. So I think overall, it was a great exposure to greenfield 0 to 1 product building. And because I had a very engineering technical background, I was able to fare well in these fairly technical products, right? So I think all of that kind of came together. Once I did this, I was enjoying it, but I did want to get into product in pure tech versus being in consulting. And that's when I actually moved to Lending Club. And Lending Club is a peer-to-peer lending platform. And I led the marketing tech sort of roadmap for Lending Club. And what that meant was actually building different like measurement products for our marketing team in order to assess if the dollars that they were spending, if there was enough return on that investment. And that was, again, a very new space for me, ad tech and marketing tech. So that was a skill I developed. Plus, I was also able to get exposure to consumer product because I was doing landing page optimizations and, funnel optimizations in order to better convert users who were coming through these different marketing efforts. So I think Lending Club really gave me a little bit of exposure into growth sort of area, even though I didn't know back then that that is what, it will all line up to. I think someone who is just getting into growth, I think the two things that really helped me was one is actually experience with experimentation. Are you able to have the right hypotheses or form the right hypotheses that you want to test? And are you able to really nicely like interpret the data that you are getting from these experiments and actually sort of make decisions based on that data, right? I think that's a very powerful skill set. And not just for growth PMs, but I think it's very important for PMs in general, but specifically in growth, it becomes a lot more important because you're doing rapid experimentation with high experimentation velocity. Anyone who is wanting to get into it could actually find those opportunities in their current role. And even if they find teams or PMs are working on it or analysts who are working on it, they could just tag team with them on a small project. I think the second thing that I think is super helpful for growth is this, you're a business person at the end of the day when you work in growth. You really need to understand how your business operates, what's your business model, what's your competitive landscape, how is the market trends and consumer trends really like shaping up your business strategy. And I think that alongside like obviously having a strong customer understanding is like a good balance that will make you a successful growth PM. So like really building that muscle to understand how your business operates, as well as obviously having a strong sense of your customer and having customer empathy, I think will go a long way in making you a strong growth PM. And one thing that I did that I would suggest anyone who wants to get into a growth do is actually read quarterly reports of your company and of like any company that you've been following, and you really understand what are the metrics that the business is really looking for, that the street is really looking for. So you kind of start to understand a lot more about how your business is functioning.
Are there a couple of skills that you consider sort of baseline? You have to be able to do this to work in growth.
Yeah, I think the one main thing I would say, especially if you're coming from core to growth, is I think this mindset shift, which is testing fast, failing fast, learning from it, and like, really be able to drive outcomes, right? Because when you do a core product, you typically have a longer cycle to prove out the product experience and to really like experiment if it's working out or not. But when you're in growth, you really are responsible for moving key business metrics on a quarterly or even like faster basis. And so the cycle of actually testing something and driving value is much shorter, right? So you need to be able to have this muscle where you are having different things that you're testing out. Some would work, that's great. Some will fail terribly. And you really learn, okay, what did not work? And okay, how can I use this information to like make the next decision? And again, like, get up fast and like try out something else. So it is a high pressure environment because the cycle to like actually create impact is much shorter.
It seems to be the approach may be different depending on whether you're working on a B2C versus a B2B, particularly talking about monthly active users and daily active users. Do you have any perspective on that you want to share?
Yeah, I think the main difference that I feel between B2B and B2C, especially in the growth space, is in B2B, again, like you do have access to your clients, right? So you might have lesser high value clients that you have direct access to go talk to. Whereas in B2C, you're actually building a product for millions of users. So you can't really go to every user and every customer and like kind of understand like what is it that they absolutely need. So I would say in B2B, it's very important to be able to form strong relationships with your customers as well as like your sales and your accounts team in order to truly like get the understanding of what is it that they're looking for, because you can literally just ask them, right? And I think it's a skill set to be able to ask the right questions, to be able to form that relationship that will inform your product. And I also feel in B2B, you have a lot more teams, as part of the acquisition cycle. Like you do have like sales, you do have like accounts that are typically the ones like directly talking to your clients, right? So you do have them as part of like your entire strategy building. So that's, you have to have strong relationship with those teams as well. In B2C, I feel it's a lot more important for, in terms of like, I think driving scale and speed, because again, you obviously are getting qualitative data through user research. You are also seeing the data of how things are working for your product. But you need to be able to make product decisions that can scale to your entire user base. And you need to be able to do it very fast, because you cannot have 100%, like you can't know 100% of like what would work for millions of your users. So as I mentioned earlier, you need to have the ability to make, fast cycles of like testing things out that you have strong conviction and hypothesis in, obviously informed by data. And then once you get signals of something that's working or not working, be able to move quickly on the next iteration. So I think you need to be able to do that till you reach a point where you're like, okay, you know what, this is actually working for most of my users. And, it's ready to be essentially shipped and scaled to the entirety of my users. So I think that's like the major difference, I would say. So in B2B, you have direct access to your clients. So asking the right questions to the clients and informing your product decisions alongside working with your accounts and sales teams gets very important. Whereas in consumer product, you need to be able to really sort of make product decisions quickly, learn from any experiments you run, and then kind of keep doing that till you reach the scale and the outcome that you're looking for. Another thing I would say it's very important in consumer product is I think you do need to have very strong working relationship with like your stakeholders and your multiple like product teams. Um, Especially because when you're working on like a consumer product, like there are a lot of like features that are getting shipped every single day, and it's important for growth to keep a pulse on all of that. And most of your initiatives actually span across different product areas. So I think it's very important to have strong relationships, create that alignment with them, and kind of be very scrappy in the way you implement things.
How do you do that with your team?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things, right? One is I like to have one-on-ones with like, say, product leads for like different product areas. So you're constantly like, sharing ideas, you're sharing updates on, what's going on in their world, what is going on in your world. And some of them are actually great thought partners, right? So it just naturally flows. Secondly, I think at every company, I'm sure there are forums or meetings where, it could be monthly business review, or it could be any of the other forums that you have where different product teams actually share what's upcoming and what are some of the results that they've received from like experiences that they have launched. I think like really attending those meetings and sort of grasping as much information as you can becomes very, very important. And I would say, lastly, like I think with return to office, I think the major benefit that I'm seeing is, you have those hallway conversations back. So many times when you're grabbing a coffee or, you're having lunch, you're able to talk to these different, not just product people, but also engineering and, marketing and design and legal from different teams. So again, you're like getting a lot of knowledge of what's going on in their world. And I always like to have lunch with different people, just so that it's an opportunity to connect with someone new every single time.
That's an interesting perspective. Another vote for return to office. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think for people who are remote also, I mean, you definitely have this virtually. Like, we used to have water coolers before, we were returned to office, where it's like every, once a month, there is a water cooler discussion where it's open to new ideas, or just if you want to just chit chat, like you just like join that Zoom meeting and you just talk to colleagues that you've never met probably. So I think we can always replicate that even in the virtual world.
I wonder if you have any case studies or even just individual projects that you've undertaken at Tinder where you can give somebody who's new to this area an idea of what kinds of things you're talking about when you say experimentation and iteration.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we have launched, at Tinder is our rewards program, which is essentially as simple as, a streak challenge, right? Where, users come into the app 7 days in a row, and in exchange, they get one of our premium, a la carte products. And this was just started as like an idea, and we launched an experiment where we showed the streak challenge with that reward to users. And for the rest of them, as part of the A/B testing experimentation, we just had the usual experience without rewards. And we saw a significantly positive impact to our daily active users, which is the stickiness metric that I spoke about previously. And that kind of helped us understand that, okay, an incentivization or a rewards kind of a mechanism is a growth lever that works for a product like ours, for the consumer like ours, right? And this is not a new concept. It has been tried and tested by so many other consumer apps, like Duolingo also does it really, really well. It was just a matter of us having a strong conviction that this would work because we had seen it work for other consumer apps. And we had also run some tests previously, around incentivization that had shown some strong indicators that people would be interested in engaging with it. So we had strong conviction, we had good enough confidence. So we had to run this experiment to prove out if our understanding was true. And what we really also ended up seeing is it's only bringing back people on a recurring basis is not sufficient, right? It's also about, are they taking the right action? Are they actually engaging in the app that gives them whatever outcome that they're looking for? And that was another, like, we have a lot of internal metrics to measure that. Those are also things that we measured. So stickiness is not just about coming back, it's about, are you using the product and getting what you are supposed to get out of it on a constant basis? So we were able to, through the experiment, figure out that, okay, that is happening too. And that's when we decided, okay, we need to scale this product. And till today, we are running a lot of optimization, right, to make sure that for every type of user cohort, we're able to maximize the value that they get out of this reward system. So yeah, that's
Okay.
an example.
So I think what you said was really important to think about when you're looking at your success metrics is that you may have success raising one metric, but the other metric that you want to raise is just as important. And you have to watch that as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like having, what we might consider false positives by looking at maybe the wrong metric or the wrong metric set.
Absolutely. I would say, like, I think there are two things very, very important. So one is, I would say there is a North Star or key metric where it's, in this instance, it's DAO, but there is also like secondary metrics, which actually helps you understand the entirety of the impact, right? Because if you only look at one metric, you're having a very tunnel vision, which will not pan out in the long term. And then there is also this need for what I call like the trade-off metric or the counter metric. Like, okay, we improve this metric, but some other business metric is down. How much are we willing to like trade off in exchange? So, for example, in this case, right, like we did look at some of the metrics, around dating outcomes. So, okay, people are coming back more often than they used to because of this experience, but are they having better dating outcomes, right? It's equally important because if users are just coming in and just opening the app and then they're not doing anything, yes, they might be getting a reward, but inherently sometimes people just love free things. So you don't want users just for coming in to feel that, oh, I'm earning something for free, because it's a great feeling. You want them to really be doing the right things in your app and actually getting the dating outcomes in our instance. So I think that was very important for us to measure. If we had not seen that, we might have taken a different approach. Also, with this specific product, like whenever you're giving out something for free, it's not really free for the business, right? Like you are giving away some sort of value. So in this instance, like we did need to keep in mind like any kind of revenue cannibalization, right? So if people are now getting a product for free that they otherwise would pay for, you're actually losing money. Right. So I think it's very important for us to sort of balance out, okay, how much increment in my stickiness and my daily active usage and my dating outcomes will make a case for it to be worth to lose out some of the money in exchange. Because in the longer term, the LTV, which we spoke about, the lifetime value of the user is going to be higher because they're coming back more often and they're having a stronger positive sort of sentiment with the product. So those are the kind of trade-off decisions we have to make. And obviously, they're all case by case basis. There is no playbook for it, but it truly depends on, as a business, what you're trying to achieve, as a product, what you're trying to achieve, and how much trade-off does it actually make sense financially for the company to make. So
Okay. And do you typically try to set up the
Absolutely before. So we need to have a proper analytics, measurement plan for every experiment that we launch, because you are launching something because you have a strong hypothesis that something is going to work because of a change that you're making. And you need to be very crystal clear on, okay, if this is true, what is the change you're going to see, both positively as well as negatively in some of the, metrics, and actually validate if that understanding is true, right? And you could come back and you could realize that your hypothesis was totally wrong, or your understanding of how much it will move the needle was a little off. But over a period of time, when you keep running these experiments, you start to realize that you get pretty closer to the actuals when you're estimating it. And you're able to make more right decisions more often. I think it could be more than 50%, it could be more than 80% sometimes, or it could be less than that too. But I think the real sort of question is, are we getting at least those few wins at the end of the day that really will move the needle in the positive direction? I think that's what matters. I would say, though, like, I think it's also fairly important for the culture of failure to be within the product org and the company, because many times I see PMs, they are really afraid to fail. That's a big no for growth, because if you are afraid to try things and you never fail and learn from it, I don't think you will ever get to that winning experience. So I feel there needs to be that culture embedded within product and growth organizations.
That's great. I would love to know what you like personally about the growth role.
I think the two things that excite me is, one is I get to work on very diverse initiatives. Like at Tinder itself, I've worked on so many diverse initiatives, like starting with, we had a whole partnership that we had done with Spotify, which was very, very exciting, with the aim to like get, cross-breed like our users with each other. I then worked on this rewards product alongside my team. I also worked on a whole college strategy, which was focused on personalizing certain parts of the experience to really resonate with our college users, with an intention to, again, develop that market and drive growth. And most recently, I also launched a conversational AI product that helped users, practice flirting and really have some fun with it with no pressure. And it is something we built in like 3 months, like in partnership with OpenAI, which was amazing. And to me, that's very exciting, because every project that I'm a part of, I get to learn something new. I get to work with very different type of like people who have their own strengths that I get to learn from. So I think that's extremely invigorating and exciting for me. And secondly, as I said, I think, for me, it's also the people that I work with. And in growth, you cannot just be in your own, pod, working with the few set of stakeholders. You need to be working with people across the company, across different product teams, stakeholders across different product teams. And I think over time, when you form those relationships and, it just is so easy and in rhythm, in order to ship projects, I think it's a great feeling, which I absolutely enjoy.
Thank you so much. This has been a really excellent experience for me. I learned so much from you. I can't wait to share this with all of our listeners. Is there any place that we can find out more about you?
Yeah. Firstly, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be part of this, conversation. Anyone can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Sandhya Ganesh on LinkedIn, and hopefully they can now find me on this podcast as well.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
This podcast is an original production of Women in Product. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Women in Product YouTube channel. Leave us a review so that others can discover us, or share this episode with someone you know. Original music provided by Jimmy Hahn. Thanks for joining us.